Hey, what's up, Drake?
What's up, dude?
How are you today?
Oh, it's a beautiful day.
Every
As you can
time I see
see,
you, you
we've
you
got
seem like you're thriving more.
we've got some greenery, outside
Oh,
here. I
I
don't know
know.
what it's like over there where you are.
It's actually a beautiful fall day here. So there's like colors and everything. There was frost on the ground, but that's why I live up north. You live in Florida. So,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
got
I
both ends of
forgot.
the spectrum.
I forgot leaves change color. I really did.
That's that Florida privilege, as they call it.
That's
So,
right.
first thing I just wanted to say, because I know we're going to chat about education and what that really means, but I was reflecting on this yesterday when we were chatting with some other, friends and really parents in the different communities we're part of,
Yeah.
and how we were talking about real education versus like the standard system education. And
Mm,
I was looking at that because I'm looking at my office here. I'm looking at all the books I'm reading. I'm looking at the notes I'm taking, and I'm
yeah.
doing this out of my own desire. Like I remember
Yeah.
when I was in high school or even whatever, elementary school, I would dread homework. I would do just enough to get by. I just wanted to get the A just to make my mom happy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, I got to make sure my permanent record's good, whatever." But I
Right.
wanted to bring this up and get your take on it is like real education is the fact that right, both of us like have awesome wives now. Like we run businesses. We have homesteads now. Like, I didn't think I'd have a homestead. Like you got yours too. Like that's
Yeah.
real education. But what's your take on that?
No, no, no. Exactly what you're saying. Like I would just say it a little bit differently. Is that real education is it's supposed to prepare you for your life, your actual life.
Right.
It's not just like, oh yeah, I went to school. Like, why do you go to school? To get a job. Why do you get a job? So I can make money. Why do you need money? So I can enjoy my life. So the real education is actually to prepare you to really have an enjoyable life.
Hmm.
And we're seeing that the system, the way that it used to work, is no longer working. Because look at with automation, with AI, the way that people are thinking about the jobs that are going to be available, even when, like, we both have kids, when our kids become of age to enter the workforce, it's like, what jobs are going to be available? And
Yeah.
they're even saying all the like really top IT guys, the top like AI guys, all those guys, they're saying we're expecting that by that time, by in the next 20 years, people are going to be exchanging careers. They're going to be changing their careers every 5 years. Careers, not just jobs within your field or whatever, but careers every 5 years. That's what their expectation is. And even these really incredibly smart people are like, your kids are going to have to be able to adapt. Our kids, I just want to make my child able to adapt, able to learn anything super quickly. And I mean, just look at any kid today. And I work with a lot of kids,
Right.
right? And I get phone calls, like I literally just got multiple phone calls just yesterday of parents saying, "Hey, my kid is 8, 10, 17, and they can't read. They are struggling or they can't do math and we really need help." And I'm like, "Wow,
Right.
how did it get to this point?"
But just to emphasize this point as well, because like Drake, you've been a tutor for years and years, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
you're seeing actively what's happening, right? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of parents can get kind of tricked into thinking, oh, my kid can read, or they're like, oh, my kid can't read, but the parent themselves actually has like a I don't want to use the word undiagnosed, but it's like they're not even aware of their own missing stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just gonna
You know
trust
what
the
it's
system.
like? It's because they got by, like they got to this point in their lives. They're like,
They learn
look,
how to game the system.
yeah, I made it. I'm here. So even with my deficiencies, I guess they weren't so bad.
Right,
But the
right.
problem is what they don't realize is like the world that you and I grew up in, it's no longer the same. It is completely changed. I mean, just
Yeah.
look at the last like 5 years,
Hmm.
how much it's changed, right?
Right, right.
And so a lot of parents are just not recognizing that the world is no longer the same. It is changed so dramatically, so rapidly, especially with technology, but even within our culture, within our society, everything has changed so much that it's like you can no longer get by with the same deficiencies. You
Right.
know,
And then just apply to a bunch of jobs and hope to get lucky. It's like I have people that I chat with either locally here or on Facebook, and they're like, look, I have applied to hundreds and hundreds of jobs, and like I'm qualified. And
yeah,
like it's not like I'm not even getting like much more than just a reply.
yeah,
And so the workforce is changing, the competition is going up. But then you have people like Jensen Huang, who's running arguably one of the most important companies in the world right now. He's
yeah,
literally saying like your kids should not be learning how to code computers from
right,
like the guy that would know, right?
right,
So
right.
it's this yeah, it's this changing landscape. But anyway, I know because we're both parents, right? We
Yep,
got kids, we
yeah.
got local community that we run. We're
Hmm.
learning new things every day. Again, I was never educated how to run a homestead. Either were you, but you
Right.
learned how to, and not just getting by. You're like making it awesome. I see what your wife posts on social media. I'm like, that is a family that's thriving. It's not to
Yeah,
say you don't have challenges, I don't have challenges, but it's like I'm not intimidated by really anything in life because I know I can learn.
yeah.
So that's real education, but we can get into that. So um from your perspective, like just what do you think are the thing you're about to share with me, right? When I want to go into that study or the Columbia thing that
Yeah,
came
yeah,
out,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then we can go more into kind of that like alternative like underground stuff that the John
Yeah,
Giannato and everything.
yeah.
But who who is this for and who is this not for? Well, what the red pill you're about to give, like who is it for and who's it not
No,
for?
that's a great question. So this is really, I'll tell you who it's not for first. I'll tell you who it's not for. If it's not for those parents who are just going to say, listen, it's not possible, and I don't want any change for my child. My child goes to the public school, and that's all that we can do right now. That's all we want to do. We don't want any change. I know maybe they know there's problems, maybe they don't know there's problems, but for them it's like it doesn't matter. They're not going to change anyway. The way the system works, let that handle it. It is not for that person.
Yeah, yeah, you can go
This is more so
wholeheartedly.
for the parent who's like, hey, I see that system is not working, and that's not okay with me. I want my child to not fall through the cracks. I want them not just to not fall through the cracks. I want them to thrive in this world. If I can see an opportunity that I can take advantage of, where my child can get the very best education. So if a parent is even considering private school or homeschool, right? Considering a charter school, just any alternative. If
They're
they're
getting
even
a private tutor or something for
right,
if your kid needs it.
yes, if they are open to that at the very least, you need to listen to this
Right.
because that means you actually care about your child's education, their future. And that's not to say that the other parents don't care. I'm just saying they're not in a position right now where they can be open to actually implementing any real change, right? And so I'm speaking to the parent who is like, hey, we're thinking about getting a tutor. Hey, we're thinking about doing private school. Hey, we're thinking about doing homeschool. Hey, we're thinking about doing a charter school. But we just are not really too pleased with what the general public is getting right now. Listen, if you didn't know this, I'm informing you right now. 2 out of every 3. So if I hold up 3 fingers, 2 of them, I got to put them down. I'll put down these 2. 2 of them, I got to put them down because that's the percentage of kids that cannot read at grade level across the nation. It doesn't matter what grade you're looking at. You're looking at 4th grade, you're looking at 8th grade. It doesn't matter.
And two-thirds of kids.
2 out of these 3 cannot do what the school expects them to do, what the school wants them to do, what they're supposed to be being taught to do. Okay.
And I know it as a parent. You're like, yeah, but my kid's the one standing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Every parent wants that. Every parent wants that.
Right.
Right.
And maybe, right? For a third of you, that is going to be the case. But even then, is that enough?
And also, eh, first of all, let me just say this: the school standards have dropped dramatically over the last five
Disturbing,
years,
dude. It's
and
disturbing.
I've talked to lots of parents. They see it. They see it. But the school will tell you, the parents or the teachers will tell the parents. They'll say, your kid is doing great compared to all the other kids. Maybe they don't say that compared to all the other kids, right? But that's what they mean compared to all the other kids. When all the other kids are the 2 who can't read. when all the other kids are the kids who are struggling. And so in comparison, sure, like listen, if you put your kid in a swimming class and all your kid can do is keep their head above water and they're like struggling with this doggy paddle. But the other kids are sinking down to the bottom. Your kid's doing great compared to the other kids, but your kid's not swimming. You know what I mean? You know? And that's just reading. It's the same statistic for math. And we're looking at just math. It's not like, oh, how many kids can read and do math? No, 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 no. How many kids can read? Only 1 out of the 3 at grade level. Mm-hmm. How many kids can do math? Only 1 out of 3 at grade level. How many kids can read and do math? Less than 1 out of 3. Less than 1 out of 3.
Yeah, yeah.
That should be like, hey, if you're a parent right now, that should be a serious wake-up call. Why? Because again, if you're seeing like what happens in the medical industry or in the food industry or in any industry at all, what do we see all the time is like, oh, this is backed by this research, this paper, whatever. It turns out, and I just saw this just the other day. It turns out that the NIH had over 100 papers, research papers, that were identified to be fraudulent. Meaning they made up some research or whatever, made it say whatever they wanted, and then said, hey, that says that this medical procedure, this drug, this whatever is okay. It's acceptable. Mm-hmm. And people just nodded their heads and went along with it. Why? Because they're not able to read these studies. Whether it's that they don't have the time, because most adults today are painfully slow readers, and people are really busy. But I mean, the average person watches 6 hours of Netflix a day. Did you know that? 6 hours of Netflix a day. The average person. Oh. Yeah. So that means they actually do have time, but what they're prioritizing.
Right. It's just obviously, and they're dopamine zombies right now.
Right. But also, if reading is so hard or such a challenge or such a task, and when you read, I hear from a lot of parents, I hear this, hey, if I read something for a while, I get tired and I don't even like register what I just read. And that's something called reading stamina, which is like almost the exact same as like going for a run. You know, if you don't run often, your stamina for going for a run is going to be really low, right? The same thing if you don't read often, which funny enough, if you can't read or if reading is a challenge, you don't read often, right? But how often do you read?
Every day for at least
Same.
20 minutes.
Same. I read every day and I love reading. I enjoy it so much. Like I cannot wait to read.
Right.
Like I can't wait till I have like some time in my day where I can just like sit down, read, and like catch up on my latest book.
And from my perspective, it's a huge factor to success. I mean, we're both entrepreneurs. We have business. There's different trends that we have to keep up with. You have to learn marketing, you have to learn finance, you have to learn all these skill sets. Books. It's right there.
Well, let me finish this point. Like, if you're not able to look at the research and just say, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. Whether it's because you can read statistics or because like just common sense, the things that you're reading, like people have this when they're talking to one another. Like sometimes people are really good at just like calling out BS when somebody's just like feeding them a line and they're like, wait a minute. That like people usually have a better intuition with talking directly to somebody. But as soon as somebody says, I have this research paper to back this up, they defer to the authority. Mm-hmm. And most people are not able to read that and they can't call out that BS in the reading, right? Because quite frankly, there's a lot of articles like, we were talking about the Nestle thing where basically Nestle went into these poor places and they told these mothers, hey, our formula is healthier than your breast milk. And if your child drinks our formula, the chance of them living is 6 times greater than them drinking your breast milk, which was a complete lie, just complete lie. But these people did not have the education in order to say, wait, that doesn't make sense. Right. Now, you and I can say, hey, that doesn't make sense, like, and just call the BS,
Mhm.
you know? Like, I can tell you some stories of what people have said to me when we were uh, with our newborn, with
Mhm.
our newborn. Uh, I can tell you some stories of the things that people were saying that my wife and I were just like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah.
And we can read the research and go, see, that does, I read the research, that clearly does not make sense. And it got to the point where the pediatrician, he's a really cool pediatrician, by the way, that we have for our daughter. He was like, listen, I'm not going to challenge you guys on this because I know you've researched it and you know your stuff. I just have to tell you this by law. I'm required to tell you this, but I'm not challenging you on it. I totally understand where you guys are coming from. You are correct. And we're like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. Right.
Right.
But if you're not able to do that, then you have to rely on the expert, quote unquote. And I'm not even saying that the experts are bad people, nefarious people. They just went through a school system. They were told to memorize things, and they're told they have to say this either by law or because that's what their degree required or whatever. And most of the time, it's at the the benefit of some some corporation or something like that that wants to make money.
Mhm.
And so your child's not actually listening to real information that's good for them. But look, the NIH, that's supposed to be a medical establishment that is, hey, I am here for the general public's best knowledge and information about medicine, et cetera. And I'm just giving you information. No, no, no. It turns out they were shelling some stuff.
Co-opted.
Yeah, so that whoever maybe wrote the article, whoever is the head of the NIH or whatever is getting some kickback from whatever either medical procedure that they're recommending or medical devices or even pharmaceuticals, especially pharmaceuticals, right? And so if you're not able to read, guess what? Your child is just listening to somebody who wants to profit off of them, right? And,
Right.
and so this is so vitally important, so vitally important.
Right. And think about that too. When you and your wife are sitting there chatting with the doctor, pediatrician, whatever, and you have that confidence, guess what you're showing your kid? Like, guess what your kid is picking up on? Oh, you could actually be a confident adult and know your stuff.
Right.
Versus the family who's there just like, okay, you're the doctor, I guess, or oh, I'll research it later. And you know you're not going to research it later. So
Yeah.
it's like there's layers of education. There's
Yeah.
let's say the main way people look at it, which is, oh, I can read and understand it and then act differently. But then there's the underlying part of education, which is you have the confidence to pick up any book, challenge anyone, look into anything, and actually draw a conclusion for yourself. That is, I mean, that's everything to me. Like when I look at my kids, I'm like, my responsibility is for you guys to be the absolute greatest you can be. But if I'm over here accepting some limitation, even if they don't see it, but within myself, I'm like afraid of learning, I don't know, math. I'm afraid of learning accounting for my business. On some level, that is gonna affect my kids. But
Yeah.
that's why I go all out every day, right? To learn. And that's why I know you do too. And that's why we build community and we have local families and we have a whole network of families locally that are into this kind of thing. And some of the kids are still in school, but they're working on a plan out of it. Some of the families homeschool already. I
Yeah.
want to give two quick examples, and then I really want to get into that research you were showing me.
Yeah.
So one is there's a mom locally. I won't say her name, but she's awesome, and she is like so single mom, just out of life situation. She's got her daughter, and her daughter's in school, and it's not the best school. It's but that's the situation she's in. But she knows deep down, she's like, I will provide for my daughter to be the absolute best she can. And she's worked with us. And it is the coolest thing because this girl has just gone from literally, in her own words, having intrusive thoughts. She's 10, intrusive thought, right? Thoughts of harming herself. She has
Mm.
peers, right? Because even if she's a smart girl, remember, 2 out of 3 can't read.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 are going to be influenced by social media, TikTok. And so that peer pressure too, the mom was terrified and she called me like crying, like, look, we need to solve this. And great, we got her on she's really set up for success now. She's started, we're gonna hang out with them later today. But it's that's a real education right there. It's not just now, oh, great, she can do her math homework. It's like, no, she's a confident girl that's going to grow up and be able to do whatever she wants to do. And there's another family as well here more locally. And as a couple and their son, the dad was always looking. He's like, dude, I don't trust the system, but I don't know what to do. I think my wife's just gonna stay home and like homeschool because like he knew he could make enough money to let the wife stay home. But he's like, dude, I don't know what to do, and I keep seeing you guys talk about this. Like, what is this? And I
Mhm.
sent him at the end of this video. We'll give some more like uh some things people can watch to go
Right.
deeper. But it's like, dude, I feel so good knowing now my son is going to grow up with these kids as his peers as well. When before they didn't really know what they were doing, but we figured some
Yeah.
stuff out that's worked.
Yeah.
So, anyway, without further ado, what was there was two articles, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I completely buried the lead on this. We should have probably led with this. But the first thing was I was seeing basically in Columbia University, not the country,
Yeah.
Columbia here, an elite
It's
private
like
school.
Obama went here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not
Yeah.
just your random school.
So elite school here in the US. And did you? Oh, okay, perfect. So let me just show you this. So at Columbia,
Yeah,
uh,
look at the screen, everyone, if you're watching this.
the elite college students who can't read books. This is the article, right? And you just scroll down. I mean, you could
Can you
listen
read that
to it.
sub headline?
Yeah, the subline is to read a book in college. It helps to have read a book in high school. And let me tell you, most kids in high school are not reading books, especially not full books. But check this out. Just gives a little background on the author here. But college kids have never read everything they're assigned, of course, but this feels different. Dame's students, this is a professor here, right? Dame's students now seem bewildered by the thought of finishing multiple books a semester. His colleagues have noticed the same problem. This is a professor at Columbia University. Many students no longer arrive at college, even at highly selective elite colleges, prepared to read books. And the article goes on and it starts saying that basically the kids they're no longer able to read.
Mhm.
They're complaining that, hey, I can't keep up with all these books. What is this? And it's like you can't read. You literally you're in college where ostensibly you don't have any other responsibilities. And just to drive that point home, I'm sorry, I forgot to share this part. Columbia University is not a cheap university. It's basically $90,000.
A year.
$90,000.
A year.
Okay, this is before aid or whatever. $90,000. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so do those kids need a job if they're going to Columbia University? You get what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. They
you don't
are,
really need a
they need,
job.
yeah.
Like if your parents are shelling out 90,000 or you got some fund that's available for you that's $90,000 a year. Well, ostensibly, you got plenty of time all day to just focus on your studies, which means if you don't have, listen, I work, I have kids, I got lots of responsibility. You know how long it takes to mow this lawn out here, like, and how much work it requires, right? And I still have time to read every day,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. You make
And
time for
these
what's
kids,
important.
yeah, and these kids, they're not able to do that. They're not able to sit there and actually read. And, I was seeing somebody comment on this article, and they were saying part of it is that the majority of kids today, the way that they're taught reading is they're not taught how to read. They're taught like this three queuing method. It's something we talked about years ago. We talked about this years ago, where it's called the reading wars,
Hmm.
which started in the 1960s. But basically, they stopped teaching kids how to read via phonics and they
Hmm.
started teaching them via this other method where it was just like, oh, yeah, your kid will just like look at context clues, look at the picture, look at the first letter, and just sort of guess what the words are, right? And the problem with that though, is now what they're saying is because most people don't know the solution. So all they know is like go back to phonics. But even the people commenting on this article are saying, okay, but they're kids at Columbia. These are like the elite kids. So likely they have been taught phonics. They can read, and they're still not able to actually finish a book, get through a book. They're still having problems. And there's so many reasons why, but just consider this point, this point right here of like there's automation, there's AI, there's iPhones, there's tablets, there's Netflix, there's YouTube, there's all these things, there's TikTok, there's all these things that are competing for your child's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And reading, especially if you're going to do phonics, which by the way, if you actually read the reading research, it even says there, phonics is not the best answer.
Yeah.
It's what they had available at the time, but it's not the best. It's not reading. It's what it says is because it's like it's a hard, long process where you're like trying and trying. So even if your kids go to phonics, let's say, right, the problem with that is they have all these other things competing for their attention,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have the time even to sit there and read. And even if they did, it's not enough in today's day and age.
And then they have that temptation as well of, oh, well, let me just use ChatGPT or one of these other AIs because there's
Yeah,
tons of these now. Oh,
yeah.
just give me a summary on this book. And it's like, imagine, like, some of my favorite books like Snow Crash, whatever. Imagine being like, ChatGPT, just give me a summary of Snow Crash. You'd be like,
It's not the same. It's not the same. It would be like you want to climb Mount Everest. You want to climb Mount
right.
Everest,
You're like,
and you're like,
ChatGPT, generate an image for me of me on Mount Everest.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's a perfect one. That's a perfect one,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah, but here's the main point, right? Is that is the old broken system. We can see it. It's plain as day now. I mean, that was it written in the Atlantic, whatever, a few weeks ago. You can send your kid into that, but now you know better. Here's the alternative, right? Well, one is if you're interested in this, Drake and I can actually send you more. There's like interviews and documentaries and stuff we've compiled.
Dude, we have a whole curriculum of
Right.
videos that you have to see
Yeah.
if you want your child to excel, thrive, do
Even for
well in this world.
yourself, if you want yourself to excel, like this is the stuff that made us both a lot of money in business too, because when you can learn, you can you can see patterns that your competition can't see. You can see patterns to put pieces together that actually create value in the world, and then you can pay more money.
I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine just having the solution and then sharing this with parents who really need this? Because there's so many now who need
Yeah,
this.
dude.
Yeah,
And right, because we do talk about, oh, today, it's like such a busy time, and people got this to do and that to do, and they got to go to soccer practice and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, here's what's awesome. I know when your daughter's, doing her education for the day, when my son, well, my older son, and these other kids in our community, it's like about 20 minutes a day of a focused lesson
yeah.
max. I mean, with your, I'm sure it's even like with Aristotle or something, it's
I
like
mean, right, yeah,
6 minutes,
yeah.
but it's like a dedicated focused lesson of a very different way of learning, superior results, and then the rest of the day they're spending doing cool stuff. Like
I
my
mean, they're
son's
still learning throughout the rest
right,
of the
right,
day, but it's not like the, it's not the way that most people are thinking of learning. And
right,
it's so much fun. It's so enjoyable, and it's
and
like they're actually able to take in the world around them.
right, because dude, like 3 months ago, I went to this education conference. It was so funny. I It was like this, like, oh yeah, challenge the system, right? We're gonna create alternatives to education. And it was like all these people came and there were these booths and these speakers, and some of it was, kind of cool. And then you get there, and then it's like all these nature schools or these Montessori schools, and it's still then like, okay, great, well, drop your kid off here. It's like good.
Yeah.
I get it. If that's where a parent is at in this, at this point in their journey, and you don't have time to be with your kid and you need to put them somewhere, I get why someone would see the appeal of that. Here's the thing, even if your kid's going to nature school and then they're like, the kids around them still can't read, it's not going to actually set the kid up to be adaptable, because the ability to read is the ability to see patterns, is the ability to adapt. And if you don't have that at an elite level, or you're on your way to that, do you see how your kid is going to miss things?
Dude, I was talking with someone recently who was telling me that they know somebody who they grew up learning to work with their hands, learning to garden, learning to plant, all this stuff, right? Which I love all those things, right? And obviously we're doing those things here. We're teaching our kids to do the same things. I know you are as well.
Mhm.
Um, but that's all that they knew. And today they're in their 50s or so, and they're like 40s, 50s, somewhere around there. Um, and they're not able to get a steady income flow
Mhm.
because all they know how to do is plant and garden and take care of, do things in nature, but they don't know how to communicate effectively. They don't know how to handle problems. They don't know how to do accounting. They don't know how to do anything with business. They don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know how to, like all these other skills. They don't know how to do really effective math. They don't know how to like get new skills to use to be effective in this world. And so they're struggling with their income because they only have this one skill, which is a great skill,
Mhm.
right? It's a great skill. Like we know that we're going to grow our own food. We would love to get to the point that part of our vision is, just seeing with everything that's going on in the food industry and everything. We Part of our vision is we'd love to grow all of our own food. That'd be
Mhm.
amazing. Or at least have a community where we know exactly where the cow's coming from, and how it was raised and ethically and clean and all of this, right? But if that's all that we knew, that would be an issue. It would limit us, right? Just like this woman is limited right now because that's all that she knows, and she doesn't have that network around her, and she's constantly having to ask her family members to support her with paying, bills that come up that are, unexpected bills, but kind of you should have like a little budget for like what if you get a flat tire, or this thing comes out of your electric bill because it's high this month or something like that. You should be prepared for those sorts of things. Unfortunately, if you only have this one skill, which is a beautiful skill, it's not going to be enough,
It won't cut it.
right?
You need like 40 to 50 skills at that level.
Yes. And you need to be able to adapt,
Mhm.
because who knows what tomorrow holds. And if you're not able to learn something new, that's a problem. And so, you know, like we were talking about before, we have this entire curriculum. And here's a question for you.
Mhm.
If you were, the child in this situation, if you were the child in this situation, and your parents have the opportunity, like you listen to this whole thing, your parents listened to this whole thing, and they're seeing, oh, there's an opportunity here for me to be able to support my child to be able to adapt, to learn any skill that they need, to see the problems and be prepared for them before they show up, right? If you were the child, wouldn't you want your parent to take advantage of that? Wouldn't you feel like a little chagrined
Mhm.
if if they get, to the age where it's like, you're the child, you get older and you're like, you had an opportunity to help me with this and you didn't?
Right. And now I'm struggling with math, or I'm struggling to find a job, or like, dude, one other thing, I'll just want to add this here. I mean, you've seen the recent stuff Elon Musk has been talking about with the robots in Tesla. How
Yeah.
Tesla is actually a robotics company. It's not just a cars company. Elon's on the record saying that his company alone, there will be 5 robots for every human. That is his bigger vision behind this, right? He ain't the only robotics company. Now, I know people are, oh, Elon, he's talking about going to Mars, whatever. But nonetheless, that he's out there saying that. And you have, Boston Dynamics, all these other robotics companies. It's like, do you see how that's going to be a very different world? There's going to be self-driving cars. There's not going to be Uber drivers. There's not going to be, even firefighters, all that. It's going to be freaking drones. It's going to be a whole new system coming online over the next 10 years. Let's make sure we're set up for success with it. So just there was two kind of final points I wanted to share here. One is for adults too, your career might be great. You might be set up for success and you're doing just fine. But you might also be like, maybe I'm kind of preparing. Maybe I need like a side hustle. And then some of you might be like, dude, I'm looking for the thing I can actually really get behind. We do have career opportunities as well, whether it's part-time or fully. And you can learn how to have your own business solving this with literally the most innovative technology and innovative approach with some of the coolest people in the world. And so that's also an opportunity as well. If you're like thinking in the back of your head, like, I'm interested in that. So there's that. And then there's the interviews and the documentaries. Drake, I think it'd be easy if, so right below this video, I'll make sure I have your Facebook and my Facebook. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
Um, where you can either, if you resonate more with Drake, you resonate more with me, whatever, or add us both and just send us a message. And because I check my inbox, once a day, I know you do too. And if you're interested in the interviews, just say like, send me the interviews or something. We'll know what you're referring to. And also too, if you're like, I'd be interested in maybe side hustle or like something, just say like, send me about the career opportunities or something like that. We'll both know what you're referring to. But we have a whole community of parents like this as well. We do local events, we do international events, and I'm telling you that specifically, there's one of these interviews that was like one of the most revealing things I've ever seen because
Mhm.
it was one of the smartest educators in the world explaining the system from the inside out. And then he gives a whole like underground history lesson in it. That was so cool for me to see. And it really was like empowering for me and my wife to sit down and listen to it. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and this is how we're gonna how we're gonna
Yes.
set our kids up for success. So yeah. Any
Yes.
any closing thoughts, Drake?
No, I mean, I totally agree.
Cool.
If you're listening to this, get your eyes open. Like you need to be aware of what is happening and what is available and what we are moving away from, all of that. So that way you're best prepared, your children are best prepared, and nobody's falling through the cracks, right?
Yep.
Nobody falls victim to this broken system.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, if you resonate with this at all, or you, even if you don't have kids, you want to have kids, you want to set them up for success, just hit up Drake or hit up me and either say like, hey, send me the interviews or send me about the career stuff you guys have. And we're happy to share more with you and see if it continues to resonate because this stuff is life changing in the best way. And it's so cool. And we care about it. Obviously. I mean, we're willing to take time away from our family to make this video. And so let's connect further. All right. Thanks, Drake. Bye, everyone.